Hello friends and welcome back. In the previous videos, we explored templates, template parts, their use cases, and how they are called in WordPress to display content. We also discussed the concept of template hierarchy and how WordPress prioritizes templates, determining which template loads for a specific pages. In this video, we'll examine their internal workings to understand which template is located based on a request. We'll dive deeper into how WordPress works internally and how it decides which template or template part to load. One important note is that we are using the 2021 Classic theme for this example. Now, before getting started, we have installed the Query Monitor plugin to help visualize which template is being loaded, what are the conditional tags that are set to true for a given request, and more. For example, if you navigate to the admin panel, you can see these three are the conditional tags that are set true for the current page. The is front page, is page, and is singular. Is front page returns true because the current page is the front page of the site. Is page returns true because the front page is a page created in WordPress. Is singular returns true because the front page belongs to the page post type, which is singular. Now let's check which templates or template parts are being loaded. You'll notice that the front page.php which we created in our theme is the template being used. And according to the template hierarchy, the WordPress first looks for front page.php file. If it is found, then it loads it. If it is not found, it falls back to page front page.php, with the front page being the slug of this page. Then the page-id.php followed by page.php, then singular.php, and finally the index.php if none of the preceding templates exist. You can see these are the template parts that are being used on this page, and these are all the body classes that have been added. Body classes are very important to add to the body tag, as based on those classes, developers can add CSS specific to that page. And if they want, they can customize the designs based on that. How do we add body classes? Open up the header.php file of the 2021 theme. You can see the body class function is used to echo the body classes. This function makes use of the getBodyClass function. And let's see what it does. You can see based on the conditional tags, different classes have been constructed and then added. It also provides a filter called body class. With this filter, you can add any other custom classes to the body based on requests or other content types you want, which is very useful to know. Now, if you go to the blog page, you can see that the isHome conditional tag will return true for this page. And these are the templates, the home.php file and the index.php file. Here is the hierarchy being shown. You can see these are the template parts that have been loaded in this template and all the body classes that are being added. For example, let's go to this post, which is a sticky post. You can see that the conditional tags that are true are is single, is singular, and is sticky. If we jump to the template, you can check the single post template sticky.php, single post.php, single.php, singular.php, and finally the index.php based on the template present from top to bottom as the priority. WordPress will first look for this template, and if it doesn't exist, it will proceed looking for single post template. If the single post template doesn't exist, it will look for single.php. If single.php is also not available, it will check for singular.php. And finally, if none of these templates are found, WordPress will use the index.php as the ultimate fallback. This way, you can use the Query Monitor plugin to identify what are the conditional tags that are set to true and what are the conditional tags that you can use in code to inject something into that request. Then, what are the template files that have been loaded for the current request? For instance, if you go to the blog page and let's see the hello world post where we set the custom template without comment.php file, which is our custom page that is stored in the post meta. That's why our custom template has been loaded for this post. If this template is not found, then it will use the single post.php, then singular.php, and finally index.php as a fallback. This way you can have the hierarchy and WordPress loads a custom template if it's assigned to the post or page or any other custom post type. Now, let's see how WordPress identifies the content and based on the content, which template file needs to be loaded. We go into the index.php file This is the main file that WordPress loads first. Every request starts from this file. Inside this file, there is a constant WP use themes being defined, which is set to true. This tells the WordPress to load the WordPress theme, enabling it to display the content. Following this, the index.php file includes the WP blog header.php file. Let's open WP blog header.php. This file is responsible for loading the WordPress environment. It first initializes the plugins, themes, and the WordPress core and handles the logic to determine which template file should be loaded based on the current request. This ensures that the WordPress has everything it needs to render the page correctly. If we jump to the top of the blog header file, we can see the wp load.php file is required and included. So it will load all the WordPress configs, settings, etc., including the active plugins, themes, and all the other required functionality for WordPress. Then, this is the WP function which will set up the WordPress query. In the Rewrite API video and WP query videos, we have seen how a request is passed and how the WordPress sets the query and sets all the required conditional tags and informations such as is single, is singular, is archive, etc. Then based on the current passed request, it filters the query words and how this WP query would construct the SQL query to fetch data from the database and set the current page if it's a home page, front page, and any single post or archive page. We saw all of that in the previous videos. So we would just focus on how WordPress will load the corresponding template. As you can see, it includes the template loader.php file which is present inside the WP includes folder. Let's open this file. So this is the main file which will load the template and logic for the same. We can go through this one by one. It first calls the WP using themes, whether the WordPress is using the themes or not. Inside this function, the WP use themes constant is used to determine whether the theme should be loaded or not. And by default, it is always set to true in the WordPress setup. Recall the index.php file setting it to true. This means that unless explicitly changed, WordPress will always load the theme. Once WordPress determines that the theme should be loaded, it proceeds to execute the template redirect action hook. This is a crucial step in the process as it is fired just before WordPress decides which template file to load. The template redirect hook allows developers to intervene and perform custom actions before the final template is selected. For example, you can use this hook to redirect users to a different URL based on certain conditions. You can also change the template being used for the current request, essentially overriding the default template that would have been loaded. And you can also perform additional customizations or check before loading the page content. This flexibility is very helpful when you want to customize the behavior of your site, such as redirecting users, serving a custom template, or implementing specific logic before the content is being rendered. Next, WordPress will check if the request method is head method and the value of the filter exit on HTTP head, which is set to true by default. If it's a head request, the content won't be generated and WordPress will exit early since only the headers are needed. If you want to override this, you can hook onto this filter and change its value to change the behavior. Next, WordPress checks if the request is a robots.txt file request. If the request is for robots.txt file, isRobots function will return true. WordPress will display the robots.txt file. Robots.txt file controls how search engines and web crawlers interact with the site. To show you a demo, this is how the robots.txt file looks like. If it is set to true, then WordPress also provides an action hook doRobots which you can hook into to display it and change the contents of this page. For instance, let's look at the WP query for this request. Please remember to undo any of the changes to the core files once you are done with the learning and testing. I have just printed WP query here. If I reload this now and zoom in a bit, you can see the robots being set because based on the redirect API, it would set the query form. If you scroll to the bottom of the page, you can see that the isRobot conditional tag is also set to 1. So this property in the WP query class would be set. Now let's look at the isRobots conditional tag and the isRobots function of the WP query class. Let's check that function. This will return the isRobot property of this class object, which is being set to 1. So this would be the function that would return true or false based on the isRobot's value. Similarly, if it's a favicon request, it will perform do action, and if it's a feed request, then as we learned in the rewrite API about the feed, this function will return the feed content. If it's a trackback request, then it will include the wp trackback.php file and then simply return. So these conditional tags check whether the current request is a request like robots.txt or favicon.ico, or is it a feed request or a trackback request. And in that case, we don't have to load the template files. Now, let's say it is none of those requests. Then it will again check for WP using themes, because if we want to use the WordPress using themes, then this will return true. Then only we will load the templates. So in this block of code, here are the tag templates, which is an array of the conditional tags and their corresponding functions for fetching their templates. Based on these conditional tags, WordPress has defined these functions. WordPress will check these because at this point of execution, WordPress query will have the data from the database. It has already fetched the data from the database and set these conditional properties in the WP query class object. And based on that, WordPress will identify which template WordPress has to load. Now, let me remove this code from here. Go to the front end, go to the front page, and add the debug statement here and reload the page to check what the request looks like and what is being set. So this is the WP query for the front page, and the page ID is set because we have selected the front page from the WordPress admin. Additionally, if you scroll down to the bottom, you can see that the is page is set to true and the is singular is set to true. Based on this, WordPress will identify that since isPage is set to true, it will use the getPageTemplate function and it will call its template. If you scroll down and check the for each loop, it will go through each and every tag and its template function, all the conditional tag, and if the function returns true, then it will invoke the getter function. In this case, the isPage is set to true, so it will call the getPageTemplate function. If we search for this particular function, it is present inside the WP includes template.php file. First, it will call the getQueriedObjectID function that will return the ID. This will return the post ID. It will then retrieve the getPageTemplate slug if there is any, and check if the meta key WP page template is set. If the meta key is present, WordPress will attempt to load the template file. Otherwise, it will fall back to another template in the hierarchy. Next, it will check for the getQueryWar page name. If it is set, the WordPress will retrieve the post name and validate the file. It will then construct an array of templates that needs to be loaded. If the template is available, then the first item in the array will be the custom page template if it's set. Otherwise, it will fall back to the page-pagename decoded.php file, which corresponds to the page name slug. The page name refers to the URL decoded version. If that doesn't match, WordPress will check for the page-page name. Then it will check for page-page id.php and finally fall back to page.php. These are the steps WordPress follows to add templates to the array. So let's print this here. Now when I reload this page, this is the template hierarchy being built for our current request. These are the three templates that will be checked by WordPress. WordPress will follow this sequence. First, it will check for the page-frontpage.php, then the page-id.php, and finally page.php. This process happens in a top to bottom order, checking each template in the list. Once the template hierarchy is constructed, it will call the getQueryTemplate function, passing in the page parameter along with the list of templates. This function will determine the template type, in this case, the page type template. If no templates are found in the list, WordPress will fall back to the page.php based on the template type. Then the getQueryTemplate function will be called by all the functions defined in here. These functions construct the templates based on this hierarchy. Each of these functions will call the getQueryTemplate, which is why you can see filters like 404 template hierarchy and archive template hierarchy. If you want to change the order of the templates, you can do so by using filters like page_template hierarchy. For taxonomies, you can use taxonomy_template hierarchy. So depending on the template type, these filters will be applied, allowing you to modify the template hierarchy order. For example, if you want to prioritize page id.php, you can use this filter to change the order. Then it will call the locate template function. The locate template function will check whether the templates exist in the WordPress theme. So let's look at this function. This function takes the template names and determines whether they need to be loaded or not. If the load parameter is set to false, then it will simply return the path. However, if the load parameter is set to true, it will include the file itself using either require once or require. Depending on the value of load once, by default, load once is set to true. Lastly, you can pass any additional arguments if needed. Then it will check if the template is in use and proceeds to loop through these options. This is why the template hierarchy follows a top to bottom priority. For example, it will first check if this front page.php exists. Now, WordPress will check in the currently activated theme. For example, our activated theme is the 2021 Classic theme. It will search for the template within that theme, and if the template exists, WordPress will locate that template path. If not, it will check the parent theme for the same template. If there is no parent theme, then the template and the style sheet path will be the same. We will go more into detail about template paths during our child theme video. Next, the WordPress will check the template path and determine whether it's located there or not. Then, WordPress will check for theme compatibility in the WP includes folder. It will look for backwards compatibility templates, and if they exist, WordPress will use them. If a template is located, then it will return the template file name. If not, then it will return an empty string, meaning the template was not found. If the template is found and the load parameter is set to true, WordPress will load the template. Once the template has been located, then this function will also check for block templates. If a block template is found, then WordPress will prioritize the block template over falling back to the PHP template. This is specific to the block themes. In WordPress, we can have hybrid themes which combine both the classic and block themes. In hybrid themes, the block template files takes higher priority than the traditional PHP template files. However, this is the 2021 classic theme, which is not a block theme. So we can skip this part for now. Once a template has been found, WordPress will apply a filter for the template type, such as page underscore template, search underscore template, or single underscore template, and you can use these filters to modify the template based on the type and match templates accordingly. These are the arguments passed to the template and returned. So this is how the getPageTemplate function calls the getQueryTemplate function, which will return the template file if it exists. If the template does not exist, then WordPress will default to using the index.php template. Since index.php file is the most required template as it serves as the minimum requirement for creating a theme, the index.php template will always exist in any of the WordPress theme. If none of the other templates are available for the content type, WordPress will use the index.php template. The getIndexTemplate function simply uses the getQueryTemplate function with the value index to check whether the index.php file exists. If it doesn't, it will return an empty value. Once the template is found, you can hook into the template underscore include filter to modify the template to be included based on the request or other requirements. If the current user have the permission to switch the themes, WordPress will check whether they can switch the theme. However, this is not directly related to the loading of templates. At this point, the template is found, loaded, and returned. In our example, the front page.php will be loaded. WordPress will follow this process to load the template. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Jai WordPress.